All right, so this is kind of a layout of how the use years line up against the calendar year. So as you can see, a February use year starts on February 1st, runs through January 31st. Then each one is a year staggered by March, April, June, August, September, October, and then December. So in this case, what we're trying to show here is if you book travel in February of 2021, for a February use year, that falls inside your 2021 use year. For March and all the rest of the use years, it falls within your 2020 use year. So you can see
the blue, as you can see,
right.
the green versus the blue. Yep.
All right. So this is where we talked about where use year really comes into play. If you know you're going to be traveling at a specific time of year, then in this case, you probably don't want a February use year. If you're going to be doing this, it just gives you a little bit. It might make it shorter if your travel sometimes rolls into January. So you might want a December use year. Yep. As you can see at the bottom, December gets their points on December 1. So it's only 2 months into the December use year that you would be booking, but you'd be booking in December, December 2020 use year for those travel dates in February of 2021.
And we were talking about earlier, and the thing that a lot of amateurs, rookies get confused with, you have your points sitting there 3 years in advance of actually of being able to really actually technically use them. Disney preloads all those 3 years ahead, and that's really to essentially cover any banking, borrowing, potential transactional scenario possible. What is it, Mark? What is the distance? I can't remember. Is it 2 years for cruises?
2 years for cruises, 2 years for RCI.
Yeah. So there's situations where you could be booking a trip that aligns with a use year two years ahead of you. So in that sense, that's why Disney preloads 3 years of points into your account in that sense. So you don't ever have an issue where I'm booking a cruise 2 years in advance and you'll have the points there. You don't have to worry about not having them. Big important factor to keep in mind is your travel dates are what define which points are pulled.
Exactly.
Okay. We do not pull points based off of when the booking occurs. That's not what matters. It's about what the travel dates are. You can always book 7 or 11 months in advance of that date, depending on home resort situation. So let's take this February, for example. So I'm going to travel 2/4 through 2/11 of February 2021. Could have booked that trip back in March, on March 4th of this year, of 2020. But I'd still be able to pull from the February 2020 point, so 2021 points if that's my use year.
Right.
Or in that case, if say I've got an August use year, I would be able to pull from my 2020 points. But you can still book 11 months in advance, so you don't have to sit there and wait till that date. And I learned this. My mom. So when we first bought 19 years ago, my mom handled the points initially. She got really confused really fast and she handed it over to me. But the big thing that she never understood, she thought she had to wait till the points were sitting physically available in her hands, I guess is the best way to put it.
That's a common mistake. Yeah, it's a common misconception.
So we had a February use year at the time, and we typically traveled in December, November or December. So she would wait till February 1st to go book a trip for, say, December 3rd or whatever it may be, when she really technically could have booked it a month earlier. Okay. Right. Luckily, it didn't affect us all that much. But for some people, say you've got a use year that you followed our guide, right, and you want to buy a use year that slightly precedes your travel dates. So say you have a December use year in this case, and you think you need to wait till 12/1 to book a trip for February 4th. Well, good luck. Right. That's not going to turn out well. You're giving yourself literally like 2 months in advance. You didn't have to do that. You could have booked it 11 months before or 7 months if you use an alternate resort.
That's
so
how
never.
You points.
Yep, and then we're going to talk about how you got to make sure points align with the travel here in a minute. But just understand that no matter what's going on, you can book 11 months in advance, home resort 7 months in advance for a different resort. From the check-in date, you can book up to 7 nights. And so in this case, February 4th to the 11th, I'd book it back in March of the previous year, and it would pull from my February use year points for 2021, but all the rest, it would naturally, it's sitting within the 2020 use year, as we see here in blue. So next slide, we're going to go to another example, and we're going to jump forward to a different travel date. This one's going to cover December. December being a unique spot. We were talking about this, Mark, because it fits within December and January travel are the 2 months of the year where they fit within everybody's the same use year. And so the cool part here is we're traveling, say, 12/5 to the 12th. I can book that trip on January 5th of 2021, 11 months in advance. And as you can see, every single use year aligns with the green 2021 calendar because everybody will be in that situation. So any other points you want to make to that, Mark, in terms of that unique trick?
No, just that those two months, like you said, fall in everybody's same use year. So if you're trying to book in December of 2021, it's in your 2021 use year. If you're trying to book January 2022, it's in your 2021 use year. So it's just depends on which use year you have as to whether it's at the beginning of your use year or at the end of your use year.
So keep this in mind. So we've got this December travel. It's pretty easy in the sense of this fits within all the use years. December use years are literally playing 11 months behind the calendar in terms of their fiscal year and how they sit. So I always tell people, if you're sitting there, booking a trip if you have a December use year, outside of booking travel in December, you're going to book in the following calendar year. So always remember that in terms of carrying it forward. It can be confusing, but once it's kind of like a light bulb thing. Once the light bulb goes off and you kind of see it for what it is, it makes complete sense from there. But until then, it's very, very confusing. So there's a couple of the basic situations where if you were just pulling points from your allotted use year, that's what Disney calls it, that you were not doing any banking, any borrowing, none of those creative transactions, it's very clean and easy.
If you found this video helpful, please click the like button and subscribe to the DVC Shop YouTube channel. We have some great educational videos coming out soon, so be sure to turn on notifications to be the first one to know when they're released. Thank you for watching, and happy traveling!